It's the River, 105 and 103.5. DC Taylor here on this Monday afternoon. And my friend Alan K. Stout is on the phone today. We just learned today that Jerry Hludzik, a fine musician from this area, passed away. Alan, thanks for coming in. Thanks for calling in today.
Well, thanks, DC, for having me on. It's good to hear your voice again. We've been apart for a couple weeks during COVID-19, but looking forward to getting back on Sunday nights pretty soon.
Yes.
But, what we're talking about today is one of the greatest and most renowned musicians that this area has ever known, with Jerry Hludzik, an accomplished musician and a well-loved musician, and it's still hard to, I think we knew there was people might remember there was a big benefit for Jerry about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I think it was exactly 2 years ago. I think it was April of 2018 at Genetti's in Wilkes-Barre. And it was known that Jerry, wasn't doing well, but never changes when you hear someone's gone. Still a shock,
Sure. And going back as far back to his career as a national recording artist, part of the Buoys back in the 70s, right?
Oh yeah, he was on that first Buoys album. He actually, I believe, joined the band shortly after the song Timothy was recorded, but he played, I believe, on all the rest of the record. And that song, of course, was a top 20 hit in 71. Mm-hmm. Really, I guess the first band really for northeastern Pennsylvania to hit the national charts. And then he and Bill Kelly took that experience from the Buoys in the early 70s and really carried that on for well over another decade, with the Jerry Kelly Band and eventually Dakota. And, just their tenacity and their drive to anybody who knows anything about the music business, it's difficult to stay in the game for that long and to have them, continue to have other labels believe in them and sign them and put them out on tour with a band like Queen in 1980 at the height of Queen's career. The biggest tour they ever did in the United States. And here was a band from right here in northeastern Pennsylvania opening shows for them at places like Madison Square Garden and the biggest cities in the world. We just did a story about that for the Weekend and the Times Leader a year and a half ago, when the Bohemian Rhapsody film came out. And Jerry talked to me for that story, Bill Kelly as well, about that experience that they had. Just incredibly accomplished musicians. And Jerry was a huge part of that.
Of course, Jerry, part of Dakota. I want to play a Dakota song right now here on the River, and then we'll come back with you, Alan, and we'll talk some more about Jerry Hludzik, who has passed away.
I can see that you're running faster.
That is Dakota, Runaway on the River, 105 and 103.5. DC Taylor here, along with Alan K. Stout on the phone as we remember Jerry Hludzik, who has passed away. Alan, you got some. You've spent quite a bit of time around Jerry in the past. You got some memories of him.
Oh man, DC, I sure do. I remember the first time I interviewed Jerry. He came down to the Times Leader. It was back in the mid '90s. Dakota had just put out a record. I believe it was their first record in quite a while at that time. And Jerry loved to talk about music, and he loved to talk about Dakota. And I remember working a really long time on that interview, on that story later, because it was probably 90 minutes of conversation that I was transcribing, trying to craft that into an article. And I still have that article up online. Maybe I'll put that up on the Music on the Menu page next day or two. But yeah, professional memories, personal memories. A couple of years ago, Jerry called me up and he just said, "Hey, I'm in town. You want to meet up for a beer?" And I remember saying to people at the time, if Jerry Hludzik calls you up and asks you to meet for a beer, you go meet for a beer.
Yeah.
Because, he's an iconic guy in this region. And we met up at the casino up at Breakers, where we used to do the music series, the Music on the Menu series, and had a good time just hanging out, talking about music, catching up with one another. The last time I saw Jerry was at the benefit at Genetti's 2 years ago. And again, I think it was kind of well known because we were doing the benefit, obviously, that Jerry wasn't well and he was having some memory issues. So when I approached him, I wasn't sure if Jerry. I thought maybe I'd have to gently remind him who I was, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, Alan," he said, "when are we going to do another story?" And man, it warmed my heart. It just made my whole night that night personally.
That's
and then
so
to
awesome.
see him up there on stage that night, performing with Bill Kelly and singing so beautifully, it's just a great memory to have. And our friend Michelle Riley, who was on the show with us, she put that benefit together for Jerry and gave him that special night. And then the last time I talked to Jerry was only about a year, maybe 15 months ago. I did an article for the Times Leader and the Weekender about the Queen tour that they did with Dakota, and we kind of coincided that with the release of the Bohemian Rhapsody film. And knowing Jerry was having a hard time, I still wanted to have him in that article. Bill Kelly did most of the interview, but got Jerry in there, got some quotes, got some memories of the Queen tour from Jerry, and I guess that was the last time I talked to him. But very grateful for those opportunities to have had with him, and I know I'm just one of the thousands of people around northeastern Pennsylvania that are feeling lost today. As I said to his family when I was corresponding with him earlier this morning, his spirit will live on in his family forever, and his music will live on in the hearts of his fans forever. So he's left a mark. And I know for a fact that on that last Dakota record, and we're going to play a track from it here, I believe you told me you're going to cue one of the last recordings up.
Yeah.
He worked so hard on that record up at Sound Investment in Old Forge. I heard that from Joe Wagleski. I heard that from Tom Borthwaite, the guys that worked with him on the record. He really, really drove himself to finish that last record, and he was already, I believe, starting to have some trouble at the time with his health. And so the fact that he could make such a fine record as his swan song, I think, also says a lot about Jerry as a musician.
And let's play a cut off that record. This is Dakota, Push. As we remember today, Jerry Hludzik and Alan K. Stout, thank you so much for calling in today.
Thank you, DC.
Here's Dakota, Push on the River.